Okay, so today in this video, we are going to see that how we can set up LAMP stack on our Ubuntu server, Ubuntu 20. Okay, so before start installing or start setting it up, we means we'll see that what LAMP stack is basically is. So LAMP stack is a group of open source software, and each of that LAMP, where that L stands for Linux operating system, and A stands for Apache web server, M stands for MySQL database, and the P stands for PHP. Okay, so why we are using this lamp stack by using lamp stack, we can host our dynamic websites or any web apps which is written in PHP. Okay, so n- so for that particular purpose we need a server with this software installed in that particular server. Okay, so now we will just start that installation process where I will see step by step installing. I will do all those installations step by step, where I will first install that L is Linux, which is my Linux operating system, obviously, which is already installed, and I'm inside that. So here Linux is basically Ubuntu 20. So I can show you that on you know uh, which Linux server I am in. So it is okay. So I can see that I am inside that Ubuntu, and it's 20 version. Okay, so on LAMP, L is already done, and I'm inside that Linux. So now what we are going to do, we are going to we are going to install Apache. Okay, so uh we'll see that how we can install Apache. Okay, so to do that, first we'll see that if Apache is available or not. So I can run this command and I can check that if Apache is available or not, and we can see, okay, there are a few version of Apache is available, okay, which we can just install in our on our Linux server, on our Ubuntu server, right? So what we can do, we can just start installing that by running this command. Okay, and it will ask our permission if we want to continue or not. Yes, I want to continue. Okay, so the installation is done. So now what we can do, we can just go and check that if Apache got perfectly installed or not. So we can run this command, we can see yes, it's got installed perfectly, and the version is 2.4.41. Okay, so now what we need to check, we need to check if that Apache service is running on our system or not. Okay, so by running this command, sudo systemctl status apache 2.service will show us that our service is active and running. What we want that each time whenever whenever we are restarting our server, we want Apache to be started automatically. So to that we need to enable this, so we'll enable this one, and it got enabled. So now if we check that status again, we can see that my Apache is running. And to test that, what we can do, we can come here to our browser, we can get our IP address. We'll close this one. Okay, so we'll queue, and if we check that my IP address, okay, I can see this is my IP. I can take that IP and paste it to my browser, and we can see, okay, Apache is got installed perfectly, and I am able to see I am able to see that Apache is working fine on this one, right? So next what we can do, we can we can enable this Apache on the firewall. So right now if we just go inside the firewall, and if we check that my firewall might not running. So in that case, what we need to do, we need to, we need to start the firewall, and then we need to check, if I'm able to, able to access my application or not. So by running this command, what we can see that it's on inactive state. So we need to start this one, right? So what we can see do that, we can just run this one. So before that, right now it's running. So what, we will just enable this. Yes, that's okay. So it's basically asking me that if you enable the, enable that service, means for a UFW firewall service, I might lose this connection because of SSH, because there must be, SSH maybe is not enabled on that list of, allowed port. So what we can do, we can allow that SSH first. Okay, so SSH is 22 uh, port. Okay, now what we can do, we can allow 80 and 443. So what is 80 and 443? 80 is basically the default port on which that Apache will run, and 443 is the secure, means HTTPS. So for HTTP it's 80 and HTTPS 443. So I have allowed all these. Okay, so now what we can do, if we just go and check that my app list, so we can see, okay, everything is fine. Apache was already enabled. Okay, but still I have enabled those, enable those port as well. Okay, so these are the rules which are added here, just to get our, get our application up and running. Okay, so what we can see now, there we can see that our application is running perfectly fine. Okay, so I'll just refresh and check again. Yeah. Okay, so Apache installation is done on this step. Okay, so now what is there we can install? So now we can install that, we can install our the next lamp. So what it is, means L is done, A is done. So now it is MySQL M. So to install MySQL, what we can do, we can, we can similarly, we can check that if MySQL is available or not. Okay, so MySQL comes with two different package. One is client and another one is server. Okay, so what we can do, we can just, install both of them. But before that, if you want, you can, using the same command, you can just check that if it is available for these to be installed or not. But I'm just going to, directly install both of them. So what we can do, I'll install the client first. Okay, yes, I want to install. Then I'll install the server. So this looks got installed. So now I'll install the MySQL server. Why? Okay, so MySQL got installed perfectly. So now what we can do, we can go ahead and check that version. So yes, so MySQL got installed and the version is 8.0.29. Okay, so now similarly, we need to check that the MySQL service is running or not. So by using the similar command, systemctl status and the service name. So by these we can see that, okay, our MySQL services are running perfectly fine. So now we need to enable this, so that each time whenever I'm restarting my server or it's getting restarted by someone, our application should be up and running automatically. Okay, so I have enabled that and that is perfectly fine. So after doing that, we need to do one more important step to install MySQL server. Why? Because we need to secure this installation, right? Means this is a database and we should not keep it open. We need to secure this, right? So what we can do, we can run this command and this will ask yes. Okay, so I have installed, so I'll keep 0. Okay, and it's asking me the password. Okay, so I'll put that password. Okay, and I'll restart, retype the password. So it's asking me, do you want to continue with the password provided? And I say yes, I want to continue, but can I can see I'm getting an error. Okay, anyways, to fix this error, what we can do, we can just create one more, just close this one on a new window. We can create one more window for that, and we can go inside that MySQL server. Okay, and I'm inside because right now I don't have any password. It didn't ask me any password, so we'll set a password for our root user, and this is the command by which we can set up root password here, and this is my password which I'm using for this tutorial, okay, in this video. So what we can do, I can run that, and it says, oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, so I have successfully, updated the password. So now again, what we can do, we can just put that password, and this should take now. Okay. Okay. So do you wish to continue with this password? Would say yes. Remove anonymous users. I would say yes. I don't know all those users. Is allow root login? No. I want to allow root login from remote. So now remove test databases and access to it. I would say yes. Reload privilege table now. I would say yes. Okay, and everything is done. All right, done. So now what we can check now. So if I just exit from here, okay, and if I try to log back to the to MySQL, it won't allow me. Right, access denied, because I already have, I already used password for that, for I have secured that, so that no one would be able to easily go inside and access the database. Okay, so everything is done, everything is perfect. So now what we can do, similarly what we can do, we can just allow that the port, particular this port. So the default port for MySQL is 3306. So I have allowed that. So now if I check list, okay, so we can see that, not the list, but what we can see, we can just check status, where I can see that what are the ports are enabled. So we can see that 3306 is got enabled. Okay, so now if I just try to log in back. Okay, so I would use this command to log it in. So now it's asking the password. So what we can do, we can use that password which we have used on that time, and we can see I'm just I'm inside that MySQL, inside the MySQL console. So I'll exit from here. So both the installation are done. So I have installed Apache, I have installed MySQL, and I was already uh, in Linux. So three part are done. So L is done, A is done, M is done. So now what we are going to do, we are going to install the PHP. Okay, so what we can do, we can we can follow this guide, which I am having. So in case if anyone need this guide, please just ping me on that comment box, and I'll share this document with you. Okay, so on this third step, means on the next step, what we are going to do, we are going to install some PHP packages. Okay, and how we can install, we can run this command. Okay, and we can install all these packages. Okay, so all these packages are done. installation. And now what we can do is we can check my PHP version, and we can see yes, it's got perfectly installed. And we have seen that there are many different PHP modules also got installed. So what we can do, we can just grab all those, and we can see that what are the different what are the different PHP modules got installed. So we can see there are two, these are the PHP modules are installed. Okay, so everything is done. So this was this is just an application. So this doesn't require any port to be enabled or anything. It's just a it's a independent software, and we don't have to configure anything, or we don't have to do anything. So we till here we have we have installed uh, Linux, we have installed Apache, we have installed MySQL, and we have installed PHP. So now what we can see, we can just we need to do that, do that setup, so that we can see that how the PHP is working with databases, and our all they four are working together or not. Okay, so to do that we need to do some setup on that. Okay, so to do that, as I have already showed you on my past videos where I have explained about that Apache virtual hosting and all, so here also we'll do similar kind of setup. So I'll just create one directory inside here, so I'll name it site hyphen egg. Okay, so I have created one directory on this location. Okay, then now I will just secure that one. Okay, with this. So now what we can do, we need to create a configuration, right? So site hyphen dot conf. So each of these things I have already explained perfectly on my previous videos. So in case if you have any doubt on these and these any section, just go back to my that virtual hosting video, so that it would be easier for understand. So this is the configuration, but before we do that, we need that IP address for the server, or FQDN, fully qualified, I mean domain name. Okay, at least a server name. Okay, so what we can do, we can just go ahead and I'll change my domain name here. Okay, with my IP address, that is fine. So you can use any any of your mail ID. So I'll just use that unix.anup@gmail.com, which is my mail ID. And what it was site hyphen ak. Okay, and the document root would be the, sorry, I made a mistake. I need to go here, and then I need to put, so site hyphen ak. Okay, so we have seen that. Okay, how we so I have added that server name, server alias name, added the IP address, mail ID. And this is much important, because we have to mention that my document root. And what would be my document root? So in case if you want to create a new window, so that I can show you by going there. Okay, so what we can see here, that if we just go cd where is cd where ww. Okay, so here if I just list this, so I can see that HTML, it was by default, and this one we just created. Okay, so if we just go and inside and alias that site X, or still there is nothing. Okay, so we are going to create something. So this is the document root, right? Means this is the path. So what we can do, we can just save this and we can come out from there. So now we need to enable this one, right? So to enable this one, we need to use and my domain. Sorry. So this will actually enable this configuration file. So that's why we are using this one. Okay. And okay. So it's asking me to reload this one. So I'll reload my service. Okay. So I have done that reload. So you know so this is a location, right? Means as we know that which I can show you again, as you know, in sorry. Okay, we can go and we can show you that this is our default configuration file, and this is the new configuration file which we just have created with those details, right? This is much more, in details I have explained on my past videos on virtual hosting. Please just go there and just watch that video so that it would be much more easier to understand. Okay, so this one configuration we just have created, and we, by running this command, we just added this means enable this configuration. And but still what we can see that this is enabled, right? So what we can do, we can just disable that one by running, there is this command. Okay, so again it's asking me for to restart. So what we can do, sudo systemctl, reload Apache 2.service, and it got reload. So now if we want to check status, I can see that it got perfectly, that configuration is fine. There's no issue with any configuration. But there is one more way if we want to check the configurations are perfect or not, and that is that Apache 2 CTL config test, which will show us that the configuration is fine. This is one thing could not reliably determine. This is just a warning, this is not an error or anything. I'll show you this one also, that how we can change. I have already explained on my past videos also, so there you can see, or I'll show you this one later. Okay, so right now what we can see that all the configuration we have added, we have changed everything, and everything is working perfectly fine, right? So now what we can do, we can add our own own uh, application page. Okay, so right now if we just go and check this one, so what we can see that it's an index of this, it is showing, right? Means there's no application is there, right? So we didn't added any file into it. So now what we'll have to do, we'll have to add a file. So what we can do, we will add a file into this. Okay, so what was my domain name? It was that site hyphen ak, right? So now what we can do, we can just create a simple HTML file. Okay, so let's say my domain is an Unix TV. Okay, hello world, this is a landing page of an Unix TV. Okay, so this looks pretty good. So what we can do, just come out from there. Okay, and again if you do a restart of my Apache, and if I just go back there and means refresh this, we can see that we have added this page, right? So this everything, all these configuration and setups are done, right? So means there is one more thing, that what we can do, that there is a file, means where we still are using all those files which are on if I just go there, it would be much more so what we can see that it still takes that .html as a default file. Means it will always take that first file as that default file. So now we are going to make this make this configuration for PHP. So what we will do, we'll just use the PHP at the very beginning, okay, and we can use the HTML later, or we'll take that HTML just after that. Okay, PHP, then we'll use that HTML. Okay, and we will keep the other things as it is. Okay, so I'll just remove this one. So all the configuration looks fine now. Okay, okay, so now I'll just save and quit. I'll reload that Apache back again. Okay, and now if we just go back here and check if it is working fine or not. So this is working fine still, because there's no PHP file. So now what we are going to do, we are just going to add a PHP file now. Okay, so just to test that PHP is working fine or not, right? So this is a PHP test. So similarly, the file which we have created at that index.html, so we are going to create a PHP info file. Okay, so what we can do, that on my directory, what it was site hyphen ek. Okay, so on here, if we just put this much code, okay, or PHP code, this code is basically shows all everything about the PHP. Okay, so now if I just refresh this and just restart our Apache to service. Okay, so what we can see, that Apache 2 is running fine. If we need to check that status, we can see it's perfectly fine. And one more, there is command, that config test, if you want, okay, that also you can use. So syntax is okay, so everything is fine, so there is nothing we will have to worry about. Okay, so now what we are going to going to show you is that this is continuously showing that this is not a fully qualified domain name. So I'm going to fix this one. Okay, so how we can fix this, just we need to change configuration file, where we need to change from domain name to a IP address. And how we can do that? So it's not added here. So what we can do, we can just go and add a line like a server name. So what if config, and this is my IP address, and on, by just going here on that with those other configurations. Okay, so with those other configuration, we can keep this one there, that on here also you can just keep it. So default runtime, here I'll put it the server name, and they work. Okay, so I'll put the server name. Okay, so now if you just go and come back, and if we check the config test. Okay, so, now you can see the syntax is okay. It's not giving me that error anymore, right? So but before that, what we can do, we can just restart that Apache service one more time, and if we just check that status, this looks fine. And also if we just check that config test, everything is fine. Okay, so all those setups and everything is fine. My PHP page is also, I have added that PHP page also, right? So now what we can do, we can just go and check my PHP is working fine or not, right? So how we can check that, we can just go here, we can copy this one and paste it, then slash that info dot php, right? So that is the page we have created here, right? This is the page we have created. And by running that we can see my PHP is also working perfectly fine, right? So my Apache is working fine, my Linux is working fine, my PHP is working fine. So there is one more thing is pending, that is the database. So now what we are going to do, we are going to create a sample database, and we are going to, we are going to check that if if our database is working fine or not, right? So to do that, what we can do that, we can create a sample database, and then we can check that configuration and the connections, okay? But still, up to here, if it is working, means it's just a, we are 90% done. There are only one thing is pending, which we are going to test, that is our database is working fine or not. So to do that, first we need to go to that, inside that Apache. Sorry. So I'll go inside that to using, I'll mention that command. Okay, so the password was this. Okay, so now I'm inside there. So I will create a database. Okay, okay, so I'll name it that example database, that is fine. Okay, so I have created an example database. Okay, now we are going to create a example user. Okay, with let's take that it's the same password. Okay, it doesn't matter. So we are going to use the same password for everywhere, so that it would be easier for us to remember. Okay, so I'm going to use, so I have created a database. So now I'm creating a user with that username is example user, and this example user is going to, be created with this credential. Okay, so now what we can do, okay, so I have used this one. So now we are going to grant all the permissions to that user for that example database. Okay, so now I have granted all the permission to for this database to this user. Means now this user can, see or check anything on this particular database. So now if I just ran so databases, okay, on this one, okay, we can see that, uh means all the databases are here, right? But similarly, if I go back, just I'll create one more duplicate. So on this one, so currently I'm logged in here as the root user, but now I'm going to log in as the normal user. Okay, means that new user which we just have created, right? So we have created that example user, and what was that password we have provided, we are going to copy and use that password, and I'm able to. So now if I just do the show databases, so what we can see that only one thing was granted to me, right? Means that is that example database, but I'm not able to see all other databases, right? I'm only able to see this particular database which, which I gave permission, right? Means where I grant that, access to this one. All right, so password created is done, database access we also have given. So now what we are going to do, we are going to create a, create a table. Okay, so where we are going to just create a, create a normal simple, a to-do list. Okay, so I have, so these are the database, queries we can say, so by which we just created a table with, these are the, these are the statements, these are the values. Okay, value we need to add on here. Okay, yeah, for each of these component. Okay, so what we can do, so we have created a table, okay, with these details. Okay, so now what we are going to add some data into that table. Okay, so I have added this data into the table. Okay, the data table is the to-do list, and this is the database name. Okay, what would be the content? Okay, values would be this. Okay, so now after creating that, if we just run that select star from that database, we can see that this content came here, right? Means I don't have any problem to see that, that data from here. So from my database part, it is done. Okay, so now what we are going to do, we are going to create a create another PHP page where we will where we will list this database, so that we should be able to see this data on our web page. Okay, so to do that, I will create another I'll create another PHP page here. Okay, which I will name that, that it's a to-do list. Okay, and where it was site hyphen ek. Okay, and with these details. So these are basically all our PHP code. Okay, so you don't have to worry about all those. Just you put here your password which you set at that time. Okay, so what is doing that, this is the user, this is the password, and this is the database name. Okay, and this is the username, so everything is fine. Okay, right, so this is going to fetch the details which we added here when we created the table, inserted the data. Okay, so now I will save and quit from here. Okay, and then if we just run this, so instead of info, so what it was, that page name, it was to-do list.php, right? So if I just paste to-do list.php, I can see that it is taking my data from this database, right? So what we can see that all the installation and every configuration is done perfectly on this system, right? So first, on our first installation, what we have seen, that we have seen there was a default Apache page. Then what we did, we created one sample page here. Okay, which was a normal HTML page. Then after that, we created this PHP file where we have added that a simple command, simple command where we have seen. I can just list them here, right? So it will be easy. Okay, so then what we did, we created this PHP info file, right? So what it was there, it was very small command here. Okay, I'm sorry. So it should be get then info dot php, right? So this basically, this two-line command, two-line code is basically helps us to fetch all those details about php. And then later what it did, we just have created this full to-do list where and these are the code which we used, right? By which what we are doing, we are just taking data from the database. Okay, by creating this database connection here. So this is basically where we are just creating the database connection, and after making the connection, we are fetching the data and just sending this data to our web page, right? So this is how all these things are working, and all the installation and the configuration we have done, right? So everything is fine, and by which by this configuration, if we need to if you need to host any PHP applications, so later on when I will install different PHP application on this, we will see that how we can host on this on this lamp stack. Okay, so all right, so this was that the complete setup and the of the lamp stack. Hope this video helps you, and thanks for watching.